final patch of Season 15 goes live December 3rd, and we've got 5 champs on the buff list. 7 are being nerfed, along with 1 rune adjustment, so we'll be breaking everything down and providing you guys an update to the solo queue tier list for every single role. But first, some hard truths. YouTube is built for the algorithm, not your LP. That means clickbait titles, junk food topics, and stretching simple tips for watch time. We're part of that system too, just like every guide and YouTube channel. And because every video is randomly surfaced to you as a singular guide and topic, advice often contradicts what you just watched. No context, no plan, more confusion. On our website at SkillCapped, however, we're free from all that, allowing us to focus on what actually matters. We teach in the most efficient way to really rank you up fast, with the same premium editing and challenger level coaches you see here, just without the algorithm's hoops. Start with our essentials courses for every role, updated for Season 15. These are meticulously planned step-by-step guides that build your fundamentals in the right order. Once you've finished essentials, move into the advanced courses. Deep dive wave control, advanced mechanics, the proven bronze to diamond climb paths, and literal world record jungle clears for each jungler, all structured so lessons stack instead of contradict. While you follow these learning paths, we also release our popular challenger walkthroughs, new sessions every week showing how to abuse the best meta champs for your elo. Supported with an AMA section below each video, which we always respond to. We back it with a climb 5 divisions improvement guarantee while you're actively using SkillCapped, plus a 30-day refund change of mind policy on top of that, so there's literally no risk. Stop trying to mix and match random guides and start following a structured path far away from all the noise. Click the limited time discount link below to join SkillCapped today. There's going to be just one system change for this patch, and it's a buff to Bloodline with its lifesteal per stack going from 0.4 to 0.45%. This means at max stacks, you will now have 6.75% lifesteal instead of 6%. So this is a buff across the board to most ADCs, and then there's also Yorick and Urgot who like to take Bloodline, so they'll become indirectly stronger. For top lane in 25.24, we have a few buffs for Nasus on the way, with his health going up from 631 to 650, while Q damage is being increased from 35 scaling to 115 to 40 scaling to 120. Buffs likely won't be enough to move the needle so that Nasus moves up a tier, so we'll be leaving him in the top lane A tier. So Riot has a hand on the nerf list for this patch, but they have yet to inform us on how they will be nerfing him. So for the time being, we're going to keep Zehen placed in the top lane OP tier. There's a good chance that the nerf drags him down in power a bit, and if that is the case, we'll adjust Zehen lower on the tier list for the mid-patch update, but we don't want to preemptively move him before we even know how he's getting nerfed. If we take a look at how the top lane tier list is shaping out, the OP tier is going to be locked down by Malphite and Zehen. Swain is being buffed for a second patch in a row, so if you like playing those more underrated picks, he's a great champion to pull out right now. Top lane Sejuani will be one to track for this patch because she is getting a bunch of AP ratio buffs, so it will make the Rylai's rush build that has been going around in her a bit stronger. We won't place Sedge on the top lane tier list for now because we generally don't place champions who have play rates less than 0.5% on the list, but if she does become more popular throughout the patch, then we'll throw her on for the mid-patch tier list. Top lane Victor is also another more niche pick to keep an eye on because a Q max setup on the champ does become stronger. Q shield is getting buffed, so there's a chance that it could lead to top lane Victor becoming a viable pick again. So moving on to jungle now, let's take a look at all the Sejuani buffs, as her Q cooldown will be lowered by 1 second at all ranks. Q mana cost is going down by 10 at all ranks, and Q AP ratio is up from 60 to 75%. W mana cost is down from 65 to 60, while W1 AP ratio is going from 20 to 30%. E AP ratio is being increased from 60 to 70%, and then R cooldown drops from 130 to 120 seconds at rank 1, from 110 to 105 at rank 2, and stays the same at max rank. So at first glance, there are a ton of buffs here, but when you dig a little deeper, most of them aren't that impactful. 3 of the buffs are AP ratio changes, and Sejuani jungle does not build any AP in her meta build at all, so unless something changes there, those buffs don't matter at all. On top of this, the mana cost buffs don't matter a ton for jungle Sejuani either, because you don't really run into mana issues all that often as a jungler. So in reality, it's only the Q cooldown and R cooldown buffs that are more significant, and those buffs alone aren't going to increase Sejuani's overall power level by much at all. We could be wrong, and if we are, we'll update for the mid-patch tier list, but for now, we just don't see Sejuani moving into meta due to these buffs. At the very most, we could see her slotting into B tier, but we're gonna leave her placed in C for the time being. Mundo has become a meta jungler over the past few patches, so Riot is tagging him with a Q monster damage nerf, dropping from 350 scaling to 650 to 300 scaling to 600. So we're probably looking at a few seconds added onto Mundo's clear, which will be somewhat impactful. Mundo has been borderline S tier in recent patches though, so we don't think the nerf will be enough to push him significantly down the tier list, so we're going to keep him in the A tier. Blue Kayn is going to receive a nerf for this patch, with his passive damage amp going down from 25 scaling to 45% to 20 scaling to 40%. Nerf shouldn't have that much of an impact, so we're going to be leaving Blue Kayn placed in the B tier. So Kha'Zix had a single patch where he was placed in the jungle OP tier as Riot's nerfing him for 25.24, with W damage dropping by 10 at all ranks. Ka will still remain in a really good spot, but we will be taking him out of OP and moving him into S. Master Yi is going to be tagged with 2 nerfs, as his base health is going down from 655 to 640, while AD growth drops from 2.8 to 2.5. So this means at level 18, you will have 5 less AD than before. Nothing too major with these nerfs, and Yi shouldn't lose a drastic amount of power, so he will remain in the jungle A tier. Jungle Zed has an absolutely insane full clear, clocking in under 3 minutes, so Riot is looking to put a halt to that for 25.24. They will be nerfing his passive monster damage amp, going from 200 to 180%. So as we can see in the comparison clips, the passive damage clocks in at 242 in 25.23, and then for this next patch, it's down at 218. Zed's insane clear speed is really the only reason he's been a viable jungler in recent patches, so with this nerf coming through, there's definitely less incentive to play him. For now, we're gonna leave Zed placed in the jungle B tier, as we don't see him falling off a cliff with this nerf, but there's definitely better junglers to choose from. So looking at the jungle tier list, not a whole lot has changed in the upper brackets, with Diana and Jax remaining in the OP tier, but there have been a ton of viable jungle picks added over the past patch. Aatrox is the best of the bunch, and if you're looking to pick up Aatrox jungle, then check out the quick guide we uploaded a few days ago, which has everything you need to know to get started. Right in behind Aatrox power-wise is Malphite, and then Cho'Gath has also been performing at a pretty decent level. If you're looking to pick up Malphite jungle, then just play him tank instead of AP. Tank literally wins 5% more, and you already deal plenty of damage when tank anyways, because you're playing W max first and going press the attack for the Keystone rune. Fizz, Ornn, and Riven are a few of the outliers that just didn't really land in powerful spots after their buffs, so they likely fall into irrelevancy over the next few patches. So Riot really wants for Swain to become a meta champion, because despite him being in a pretty powerful spot, they are buffing him for a second patch in a row. This time, it's his passive healing that's going up from 3 scaling to 6% to a flat 6% at all levels. So more sustain for Swain early on in the game, which is great because it's the earlier stages of the game where Swain can be exploited. So covering up that weakness a bit from this buff will feel nice. Swain is going to be bordering on OP tier for 25.24, and we may look to move him up for mid patch, but we're going to keep him placed in S tier for now. Victor is the one other mid lane champ who's buffed for this patch, with his Q shield going up from 40 scaling to 115 to 40 scaling to 140, while shield AP ratio is going from 18 to 25%. So breaking this one down, in order to gain max value from this buff, you need to have Q fully maxed out. For that reason, there's a chance that Q max first could become better than E in specific situations. If you're in a ranged matchup and the enemy has strong wave clear, then going E max just makes more sense, because you'll need to have the wave clear yourself to match the enemy's push. If you're in a melee matchup though, that's where a Q max would gain the most amount of value. We definitely think that top lane Victor has a much better chance at becoming meta with a Q max than mid lane, but it will be something to try out on mid in melee matchups for 25.24. Even if you don't max Q out first though, it's still a nice mid game buff for Victor, as you'd have Q maxed at level 13 and a bit more durability to help fend off divers. Whether the buff is enough to move Victor out of the B tier is a toss up, because if it does, then we think it will just barely be enough, so we're going to leave him placed in B for now. So Mel ended up gaining too much power from the changes she received last patch, and Riot will be nerfing her back down for 25.24. E base damage will be lowered from 60 scaling to 240 to 60 scaling to 220. E mana cost is up from 50 scaling to 70 to 50 scaling to 90. E damage over time DPS is going from 16 scaling to 80 to 16 scaling to 56, while E damage over time linger duration is down from 0.75 to 0.5 seconds. We could have had Mel placed in the A tier after her changes from last patch, but with these nerfs going through, she'll be back down in a pretty average spot, so we're continuing to place her in B. So the overall outlook on the mid lane meta is going to be very similar to where it was last patch, with Naafiri, Diana, and Ahri making up the OP tier. Swain is definitely the mid lane champ who has the potential to make a push into meta for this patch, as the fact he's been buffed 2 patches in a row while already holding a win rate above 52% is pretty crazy. If we don't see a decent play rate spike for Swain this patch, it's kind of doomed for the champ, because that just means people dislike playing Swain so much that they won't even consider picking him when he's really powerful. If you're looking to get started on Swain for 25.24, then our new full game commentary out on our website from our challenger mid laner Shori can help you out. Since Riot went super heavy with the ADC changes last patch, they are going as light as possible for 25.24, as there won't be a single ADC adjusted. So this means Miss Fortune will continue to lock down the OP tier as the ADC who's a cut above all else. Riot has done a pretty good job at balancing the rollout over the past few patches, as we now have a ton of really good S tier picks, and there's really only a few champs that we would recommend to stay away from. Yunara and Varus have been nerfed to the point where they aren't really worth picking, and then Kalista is Kalista, as she won't ever be an optimal ADC for solo queue unless she gets buffed or gets some sort of rework. There is just one traditional support who's going to receive changes for this patch, and it's Braum. So Braum is actually getting buffed, with his base health going from 610 to 630, and passive post-stun bonus damage is up from 20 to 40%. So honestly, pretty nice buffs for Braum, considering he's already been in a good spot in recent patches. As a result, we will continue to rate Braum in the support S tier as one of the best melee supports. So support is kind of the only role that didn't end up seeing any sort of end of season meta shakeup. Melio and Nami have been the 2 OP tier supports for a long time now, and that won't be changing going into end of season. Swain underperforms pretty hard in the support roles, so even with his buff for this patch, we definitely think he's just way better suited as a top laner or a mid laner, but he should be buffed enough so where he's no longer C tier level of bad, so we'll be moving him into B. Mel, on the other hand, is going to continue to be placed in the C tier, as her nerf coming through will just make her even weaker than she already is. Alright guys, one last thing, our rank up guarantee is insane. It's like signing up for the gym and getting a refund if you don't get ripped. That's how confident we are in SkillCapped. We obsess over making the best guides with top players, rigorous testing, and top tier video editing to make your climb easy. If you're ready to level up, visit SkillCapped.com and see the difference. So that's gonna wrap everything up for 25.24 solo queue tier list. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck with your end of season rank climbs, and we'll see you back soon.